Welcome to Talking Giants player profiles and projections. Today we have, and can I get in, John Ross. Not a John Ross, and John Ross.
I love the people online that try to correct you on your grammar when it's like, no, that's like what it's supposed to be.
Those people don't deserve any John Ross.
Nope,
5'11", 194 pounds, 25 years old, very young. The former first-round pick. I mean, we all know him from the 4.22 40 coming out of Washington. The Bengals take him as a top 10 pick. And it just did not work out in any way. The Giants take a flyer on him, though. Like, these are the kind of contracts we want to see, you know, and this is, I think we even talked about him pre-free agency. It's like who's going to be this year's Nelson Agholor that the team that drafted him gives him up on, but he's got all the talent in the world. And then, I mean, Agholor killed it with the Raiders. So the Giants give John Ross a 1 year, $2.2 million deal with $1 million guaranteed. And I do think he's a lock to make the roster. Like, you know, coming in the camp now to see the way they're using him. I know at the time of recording, he's a little banged up, but I do. If he's healthy, I look at him as a lock to make the roster. But in 2020, he only played 17 snaps, was totally not involved, wanted to be traded. And then he had a foot injury while playing corner. Like, he played a little corner at Washington, and they were like, hey, like, they obviously knew it wasn't going to work at wide receiver. They're going to move him to corner. And in practice, he had a foot injury. And we can go through all the years. It seemed like every year there were some, you know, flashes, but it was injuries and really bad drops. It just didn't work out at Cincinnati. But he just has that undeniable speed that's going to give him this second chance with the Giants.
Yeah. You know, the first note that I have is not even a stat. It's not even nothing. It's just, this is a guy that needs a fresh start with a new team. Frankly, you could say that Evan Ingram also is one of those guys that would qualify in the Giants roster, you know, former first-round pick. But John Ross, this is a signing that is exciting no matter what happens. Like, even Bobby, you know, even if he does get cut this camp, this is still a signing that I'm still going to always look back as exciting because it was such low risk, but the reward can be so high. And before we get too into the numbers and stuff like that, I'm rooting for him to make the 53. I kind of do prefer him over Sills. I mean, I got to see Sills. I prefer him over Dante Pettis because he's just a really exciting player, and he could be a situational weapon. Now, the expectation when we signed him was not that he was going to be out there for every single snap, you know, but this is even pre-Kenny Galladay, pre-Kadarius Toney, but he's a situational weapon. I mean, Bobby, just think about the times that CJ Board and Austin Mack would get snaps, let's just say as an example. I know Mack was mostly a blocking wide receiver, but the situational times where CJ Board catches a ball, you know, once every 2 games, how cool would it be for John Ross to get those snaps? Where it's like, okay, well, John Ross, you're an exciting player. You're here. You're a big play player. That's what he's been known for in his NFL career so far. He's a big play guy. He's also known for his drops, but he's just an exciting guy that can come in if he can kind of catch the ball and if he can stay healthy for sure.
The numbers on him are just so weird and up and down, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. But you look at, I mean, let's just go through some of them. In 2019, in 8 games, he had an injury. He averaged 63 yards per game. Like, that would be our best, like, production on the team. Like, in 8 games, he was averaging 63 yards. So he had 506 yards in 8 games, which is a 1,000-yard season. But it was only on 28 catches, was averaging 18 yards per catch, had 3 touchdowns. And remember, 3 touchdowns, he did that in half a season.
Yeah.
Our leading now, this was probably a record low for passing touchdowns for the 2020, but like Slayton 3 touchdowns, Shepard 3 touchdowns. He did that in half a season with Andy Dalton as his quarterback. And then you look at the drops, though. In 2018, you know, he didn't play much in 2020, but in 18 and 19, 15 drops in 21 games. And a 14.3% drop rate was top 5 in the league. And if you go look at the John Ross film breakdown I finished the video off with the drops. They were big plays, like very big plays. So you see 63 yards per game. It could have been like, you know, 75, 80 yards a game if he doesn't have these huge drops. So it's so up and down. And then let's look at 18, 7 touchdowns, playing 60% of the snaps. You know, and then three touchdowns, you know, that next year playing 37%. And the year he had the 7 touchdowns, he had 21 catches. He caught a touchdown every 3 catches he had. Yeah. It's just, he's such a huge, big play threat, but he's unbelievably unreliable.
Yeah. Some little bit more advanced stats for you. According to NFL Next Gen 2019, John Ross had the most wide receiver separation out of all the wide receivers that averaged more than 14.5 air yards per target. So typically, take Kenny Galladay, for example. Kenny Galladay is one of the worst in the NFL at getting separation. Well, that's because he's getting targeted deep down the field. So it's kind of a little bit more excusable. But John Ross, take, for example, gets targeted deep down the field, but he creates separation. Some more advanced stats, 15.6 average depth of target in 2019. That's kind of similar to Darius Slayton. 7.1 yards after the catch per reception in 2019. That was 6th in the NFL, the entire NFL in yards after the catch in 2019. And his expected yards after the catch per reception, the difference between those two was about 2 yards. So it's a positive. That means that John Ross, but with his own individual performance, is adding that 2 yards extra yards after catch per reception. 22 first downs on 28 catches in 2019, 15 drops combined in 2018, 2019. Fast burner that really the Giants need. They need big plays, and John Ross can bring that if he's on the field and whenever he can kind of be used.
Yeah, well, now it's fresh start. Really not a ton of there's 4 wide receivers who are like firmly ahead of him. Maybe he is wide receiver 4 over Tony at the moment. We don't know how it's going to play out. And, but even that is a very low expectation for him. And I do think the fresh start thing means something. He's going to have a different role. We don't usually talk about special teams on these, but we can talk about him as a kick returner.
Which isn't it crazy how Cincinnati never used him like this? This is a guy that's
special team snaps in 4 years,
inconsistent offensively and has a drop problem. You would think that, let's just throw him on special teams unless they just didn't want him to get hurt. But inconsistent offensively, let's just put him as a kick returner and use his lightning fast speed. The fact that Cincinnati never did that boggles my mind. And I'm rooting for him to do that because that is, I would say, that's like his best path to make the team.
Right. The Giants did put out an unofficial depth chart, the first one. He was kick returner 1.
Cool.
So I do expect him to be used in that. But let's just his role in the offense.
Yep.
I really think it's going to be simple. He's going to get snaps. If he is on the active game day roster, he will get snaps in every game he plays. You put him on go balls, put him on slants. Just let him work the side, hey, use your speed.
Yep.
Use your speed. You don't have to be, he doesn't have to be the best route runner to be a situational wide receiver.
Nope.
Use that speed. We've seen, we're talking about the numbers. 7 touchdowns, playing 60% of the snaps. 3 playing 37%. So he will lead the big plays. It's just
catch the ball.
That really is it. Because we're not expecting him to come out and be a huge every game contributor. It's just when you are out there, don't drop the ball.
No, but
that is my hope. My realistic, please get better at this. I don't need him to be a great route runner. I don't need anything special out of him. Just be fast and don't drop the ball at an alarming rate.
Yeah, because if we come out week 1 and John Ross gets a target and his first target is a drop, and then it's like, oh boy, I know not a lot of fans know a lot about John Ross, so maybe they're just like, who is this nobody that dropped the ball? But I can imagine the diehard Giants fans that know John Ross and maybe are a little skeptical about him because of the drops in the past. If he comes out there first week and he drops the ball, it's going to be like, oh boy, not a great look.
He makes Evan Ingram drops not look that bad. It was brutal. And I would. You don't need to go watch the whole film breakdown on John Ross. You'll get to points you get it as fast. Go watch the very end and the drops. It's just brutal. So anything else? It's a win-win with John Ross.
Yeah.
If he doesn't plan out to nothing, it's okay. It was $1 million guaranteed. So, that's a little more guaranteed money than any bottom of the wide receiver depth chart will probably get. But it's just, there's so much reward that can be there.
Yeah.
If so we're looking at these numbers. If in 37% of the snaps, he has 3 touchdowns and, 250, 300 yards, that's a successful season for John Ross as wide receiver 4/5.
Yep. And usually said this a couple times this camp, sometimes things work themselves out. Hopefully John Ross isn't the guy that's on the injury bug where he allows somebody else to get the roster spot, but sometimes between Kadarius Toney being, in and out with, I guess they're bringing him back slowly from COVID. We don't exactly know what's going on there, but some guys that are hurt. Kenny Galladay, he's going to be struggling with an injury for a little bit. Sometimes these things, they work themselves out where there's a lot of depth in one spot, but John Ross could very well make the team because somebody else isn't ready. But I hope he just makes the team flat out too, because he has the most out of all these wide receivers here. We'll end it off on this. Out of all these wide receivers that are battling for this wide receiver 5 spot, is he not the most exciting player out of all?
He's the only one that you have to you really have to account for every time he's on the field. David Sills, you don't need to be like, hey, make sure you're covering over there. Dante Pettis, as talented he is, he's not like someone that puts fears in defense. No matter how inconsistent John Ross is, no matter how many drops he has, every time he's on the field, that defense is like, okay, like we better account for him and know where he's at, or this could swing the game and turn into a 70-yard, 60-yard touchdown. Yep. So, and that's why, that's why I'm rooting for him, and that's why I really like that signing. So we appreciate you guys. We will see you on the next player profile and projection. Appreciate you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.